Thanks for joining me for another episode of Lessons in Logic. I'm Andy Olson with Equizoe Ministries. For this episode, we are going to talk about the no true Scotsman fallacy. So in the last episode that we did, we talked about moving the goalposts. The no true Scotsman fallacy is a form of moving the goalposts. The way it works is that somebody will make an argument, and then the person that they're debating with will come up with a counterexample to show that their argument is incorrect, and then the first person will come up with a form. They'll come up with an arbitrary purity test to throw it out and disregard it. And that's the key here. It disregards counterexamples with arbitrary purity tests. So here's a kind of a goofy example that I pulled off of yourlogicalfallacyis.com, one of my favorite sources on logical fallacies. And in it, Angus declares that Scotsmen do not put sugar on their porridge, to which Lachlan points out that he's a Scotsman and he puts sugar on his porridge. So furious, like a true Scot, Angus yells that no true Scotsman pours sugar on his porridge. So we see here that it doesn't matter where Lachlan was born, where he was raised, where he spent his entire life. He's Scottish by blood, Scottish by ethnicity, Scottish by culture, Scottish, probably a thick Scottish accent, doesn't matter. He puts sugar on his porridge, so he's not a Scotsman. So it's just a goofy example that helps to illustrate how it works. So we can also take a look at the no true Scotsman fallacy in regards to civil discourse today, especially if you take a look at political correctness. This one comes up a lot. Especially a good example would be in regards to tolerance. People will use this fallacy. They'll throw out the word tolerance. You're not tolerant. You're a racist, or you're sexist, or you're misogynist. You're Islamophobe, istophobic, phobophobe, if you know where that term comes from. That would be a no true Scotsman fallacy, that you're not of the right mind because you don't subscribe to a specific ideology. So this one, we're going to talk in the future about an ad hominem fallacy, and sometimes, as I have talked about before, fallacies can really fit into multiple categories. Calling somebody intolerant or racist or whatnot could be an ad hominem fallacy. It most certainly is, but it also can be, depending on the context, a no true Scotsman fallacy. So we see an example in Scripture also where the Pharisees accuse the disciples of being impure, which is to say they're not real Jews, because they don't wash their hands before they eat. We see this in Mark chapter 7. So their standard, which was that they have to wash their hands, is arbitrary. That's not required by Scripture. Another example, I want to call it contemporary, but honestly, it's actually kind of dating me to use this. But anyway, atheists have accused Christians of engaging in no true Scotsman fallacies when we declare that people don't bear good fruit, and that those people who don't bear good fruit describe themselves as Christians to our protest. And the example that dates me is Eric Rudolph. And if you don't know who Eric Rudolph is, back in, I believe it was 1996, the Summer Olympics was hosted in Atlanta, Georgia. And Eric Rudolph was a man who put bombs in backpacks, and left them in Olympic Park and exploded them, and people died. And atheists would accuse Eric Rudolph of being a Christian. I think he subscribed to he was pro-life, or at least made pro-life arguments, some other things that would be traditionally Christian points of view. But then the Christians were saying, well, no, he wasn't a Christian, and their cited reasons were that he admired the teachings of atheist philosopher Nietzsche, and also because he killed people. So that's not an arbitrary purity test. Killing people is forbidden by Scripture. So by pointing out that he was guilty of murder and saying this guy wasn't a Christian, we're looking to his fruit and saying, Christians are people who believe certain things but also do certain things, and that he did not meet the test. And those tests are found in Scripture. So it was the atheists who had the arbitrary test, subscribing to certain political views, for instance, for saying, well, he's one of yours. So that is the no true Scotsman fallacy. Again, if you're interested in the entire series that we did a few years ago, you can find that at the address on your screen there. We'll be back probably next week if I maintain my schedule of posting an episode a week. And thanks for joining me for another Lessons in Logic.